Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to rmpodcastfl. This is your favorite podcaster, Romina. Hope everybody's having an awesome day so far. 2 more weeks, you guys, and then we have a whole new year. And if you're going to make some goals of new year, new me kind of stuff, just stop it right there and then. It's not a new you. It's the same you. It's just an improved version of you. So definitely make smart goals when you're looking at New Year resolution. Don't just say, New Year, new me. That's like the one thing that I hate when people say. I'm just being very honest, you guys. And as you know from me so far, I'm very upfront and very vocal about my opinions. But before we do get started to today's episode, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in from wherever you're at right now. We have downloads for over 33 countries. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. There's countries that they don't even speak English, or English is not their primary language, and I think it's pretty awesome. You're tuning into my podcast, so thank you. And if you want to take a moment and give us a 5-star and a short review on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it 1,000,000 times. Also, don't forget, you guys, go ahead and put in your Twitter username or your Instagram, so this way I can get a hold of you, since we are doing a monthly withdrawal for the reviews that we have in there. And so far for December, we haven't had a winner yet. I mean, it's kind of like half of the month too. But before we do start to the episode, I don't know if you guys had the chance to check out last week's episode number 41. I mean, I cannot even believe it's 41 episodes. The Wow Factor Place is with Deb Bolkis. She has a great book out there, you guys, which actually launched a week ago. Her book conducts interviews of professionals of different careers. Sounds familiar. And she conducts interviews with professionals, with leaders that actually work in an environment that the employees have a long-term longevity. So you find employees where they've been there for years, not because they're stuck there, but because they love working in the company. There's an upward mobility. There is willingness to help, willingness to learn more. So definitely go ahead and check out that episode, as well as read her book. If you guys do want to get a hold of her book, it's on the description, so don't feel more than free to go ahead and do so. But today's episode, it's actually with an other awesome person. His name is Tyler Christensen, and I got a chance to connect with Tyler a while back. You guys, if you go to his website, tylerchristensen.com, the very first picture that is going to come up is going to be an awesome picture transformation of him. He has a book coming out soon, Unlocking the Power of Transformation, when he talks about the mindset change, the body change, and everything with his weight loss journey. How everything got started is that his wife had to actually sit him down and tell him,
Tyler, we need to talk.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but if my significant other told me to sit down because we need to talk, I would have a mini heart attack. But all this conversation, all this critical conversation that Tyler's wife and Tyler actually had together, it brought up great results because he lost over 100 pounds, you guys. That's what he talks about in his book. Also, his other book, Get Free Stuff, it's just a great guide of how to get free stuff online if you actually just do reviews. Tyler was a professor. Now he is a teacher for a fifth grade teacher. So he actually uses these free products to motivate his students. I'm very excited for you guys to actually jump in and listen to this episode. Tyler is a teacher. He's a professional writer. He's a speaker. He's a motivational speaker. I loved this interview, so I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And again, if you want to check out his stuff, go ahead and do so on the details below, as well as tylerchristensen.com. But without losing any time, let's dive right in. Hope you guys enjoy it. Perfect. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and investing your time towards RM Podcast FL. So just like I mentioned on the bio, today's guest speaker is Tyler Christensen. Hi, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks. How are you doing?
I am good. And it's kind of funny. Today's Tuesday, and we're actually doing this interview on Tuesday, too. So happy Tuesday to all my listeners for the new episode.
Woo-hoo.
So Tyler, I'll pass on the mic to you. I'm really excited about this because I did some research for you online and I found some really great stuff. So I feel like it's going to be a lot for the audience too. But I'll pass on the mic if you want to tell us a little bit about young you to today. Walk us through your life.
Okay, sure. So I guess first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I have 4 kids of my own. And then I have 27 other kids that I teach 5th grade to during the day. And so that's my day job. And then I have lots of other jobs. I'm a sports writer. I'm a web designer. I do product reviews. And there's probably some other stuff in there too. I'm an author, a speaker. So I keep busy.
Yeah, so you're definitely not bored.
No, not bored at all.
Do you ever run into that moment though that you like have a moment to like relax and you're like, I feel like I forgot something, but you actually legitimately have free time. You just freak out for no reason.
Yeah, even though I'm busy with stuff, I still binge Netflix and I listen to podcasts and stuff, but I usually am multitasking that. So I'll do that while I'm running, or I'll ride a bike while I'm watching TV with my kids. And so, I find a time to relax, but I'm a little scattered, not too bad type of stuff.
So I wanted to go back a little bit. You said you're also into web designing. You did share a story with me of how you put in some grind work towards just getting connected with very important people or very high celebrities towards helping them out with their design. Do you mind sharing that story with the audience?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't do a ton of web design work anymore. And part of it's just because I'm busy with other things. But back, a long time ago now, 15 years or so, when I was an undergrad, I learned how to do some basic coding and was just tinkering around with web design. And from those early days, I mean, this is early internet. I started building just really basic sites for myself, and then family and friends would ask for help with sites for them. And so I did that off and on for quite a few years. And then as a professor, I would have a lot of extra time during the summers. And so during my summertime, I decided, well, maybe I should scale up my web design. And so 6 or 7 years ago, probably, maybe not quite that long, about 5 years ago, I was trying to scale up my web design. And rather than just do mom and pop shops like I had been doing, I thought one way I could grow my brand is to get some recognizable clients, right? And so I made a list. It sounds silly to talk about it now, but I just made a list of all my favorite people in the world, like actors and athletes and musicians. And then I went and looked to see if they had websites or not. And if they didn't, I would make a note of it, and then I'd try to cyber stalk them. And this was back like in the early days of Facebook and stuff. And so I was trying to find them in social. I think I had a Twitter account back then, so it would have been right at the beginning of Twitter. But I tried to find people using social media. And with actors, I'd look at their IMDb and see if there were contact information there. And so I just made this like little spreadsheet of my favorite people and if I could find contact information. And then I did this all like in one day. I made this list, and then I drafted an email that says, hey, I'm a professor, and I'm looking to grow some web design business over the summer, and I'd love to you're one of my favorite people in the world, and I'd love to build you a site for free, just because it'll help me build my brand. Let me know if you're interested. So I sent it off to the people, and then I looked at my analytics online to see if anyone was pinging my website, checking out my work and stuff. And I got a few. Like there was a gal from the show Once Upon a Time. This was a new show at the time, and the lead person, I knew which city she lived in, so either her or her agent or someone was looking at my website, and I got all excited, and then nothing happened. And so then I forgot about it, and several months passed, and then I got a message in Facebook. And in Facebook how it kind of has that that hidden messages. So if you send a message to someone you're not connected to, then it goes into this weird inbox, and
Bucket, yeah, it doesn't
if you
go
dig around,
directly
you
to
can find
inbox.
those. So this person had found that and was responding, and his name's Sage Brocklebank, and he was on a show called Psych. And I loved this show, Psych, about a psychic detective. And Sage wasn't one of the main characters. He had a regular role, but he's the chief detective, Buzz McNabb. And so if you're familiar with the show, you know who he is because he was on most of the episodes. And I love this guy. He was the comedic relief at the police station. And he emailed back or messaged back in Facebook and said, hey, my mom was a teacher for a lot of years, and I've always wanted a website. Sure, let's do it. And so I did. I built him a website, and we actually became really close friends. Like, he's one of my dearest friends today.
Oh,
and
wow.
we just Skyped back and forth all the time, and he would call my kids on their birthdays and sing happy birthday to them, and just the greatest guy, just a really genuine, awesome guy. And he referred me to some of his friends, so then I did some work for some other celebrities and models, and that's kind of how it started for me. So I got a few celebrity clients, and then I stumbled into a professional basketball player that I work with now, Kyle Collinsworth. And it's been fun. But I realized in doing all the web design stuff that I loved the design part. I didn't like getting new clients. I didn't like billing. I didn't like all the business around web design. And so I've kind of worked my way out of that. It's fun and I still have clients, but I'm not taking on new ones.
That is awesome. So you just built it a draft. You just had an idea, literally wrote it down, and then did some notes. That's amazing. So that right there, I feel like it shows persistency on your end, because I know what it feels like to check if like somebody have seen your, your email, like with a podcast or with a website. Right. I go like to analysis and I'm like analytics. And I'm like, is this country? Who do I know from there? It must be this person. Like at first, especially when I remember we're like 10, 15 subscribers. And I was like, who do I know from Malta? And I was like, nobody. And I'm like, Mom, do we have family in Malta? Like, I'm trying to like pin it. So it's really exciting at first, but that is amazing. That is really cool.
Yeah. Well, and the cool thing is, it's not like I worked really hard for a real long period of time. I had an idea and I acted on it. I did all that research in one day. I sent all the messages out in one day, and I didn't expect a huge response rate. And I didn't get one. I got one person to say yes, but from there, then it was word of mouth and it grew from there. And so it's just taking action and taking a chance on something.
That is so true though, because it was just an idea that you put it to action and it happened what it happened. Now you have a new best friend and you also have clients.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
That's awesome. That's a story to definitely tell. Now, so listeners cannot really see this, but if they go to your website, the first thing that pops up, number one, I definitely want to read your book, Unlocking the Power of Our Transformation, which is coming up later this year. So I definitely want to read that one, and I want you to tell us a little bit more. But tell us the behind of the books. I'm going to let you break it to them.
Sure. Well, since they can't see me, I can give a visual, and I'll give a visual from a couple years ago. I got home from work one day and my wife pulled me aside and she said, Tyler, we need to talk. And it kind of freaked me out because you don't just say, hey, we need to talk. Let's lock the kids away.
We need to talk. You're like, okay.
Yeah. So in my brain, I went through all the worst case scenarios, who died, what's happening. And we got the kids squared away and put to bed and shut the door. And she said, Tyler, I'm afraid that if you don't change something in your life, you're going to die. And I was confused. Honestly, I had no idea what she was talking about, but she had been thinking about other friends that we have that were unhealthy. And what had happened is my life, I wasn't incredibly unhealthy. I worked out and I did things. I tried to eat healthy, but over the last 20 years, every year I gained 5, maybe 10 pounds. And it added up. And before I knew it, my wife's telling me, you're going to die. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was morbidly obese, which means you're going to die, And so we talked about my weight and we put together a plan to lose weight. And I tried it out and I worked hard. And honestly, for the first few months, I tried a bunch of things out and I actually gained weight. It was horrible because I've been trying to do all these things, recommitting to my wife. I'm going to live a healthy life. I want to be there for my kids. And it didn't work. And then the new year started, and this was the beginning of 2018. The new year started, and I tried to put things in place, but work was really busy, and I was kind of stressed, and health was still kind of being put on the back burner. And in early 2018, I got up to 306 pounds, which, I mean, I'm a pretty wide guy. So my normal size is decent size, but 306 was huge. And so I was.
So how tall are you?
I'm 6 feet. So
okay, so you're also tall at the same time.
Yeah, not real tall, but tall enough that I can.
Well, I'm 5'3". I'm just trying to see like three. Yes, so 6 foot tall, 306.
Right. So anyhow, that's where it started. And what happened is I'm teaching 5th grade right now, and this is new for me. I was a professor for 10 years, and we moved across country and kind of changed a lot of things in our home. I have a daughter with health problems, and we needed to be in a drier area, and so we'd gone through things that honestly was stressful, and I'm sure that contributed to my weight gain, but I committed to my wife we're going to make changes, and what I said is the first day of summer vacation in 2018 I'm putting health number one, and I'm just going to make that a priority. And so I went out on that first day and I went running, and I've run all my life. I've done several marathons, But I went running that first day of summer 2018, and I couldn't even do a mile. I couldn't even get through a whole mile. I got about halfway and I had to walk. And when you're 300 plus pounds, you know, you're sweating like crazy and you can't bend over and you're real uncomfortable. And that's where I was. So that started my journey. The fast forward to today, I kept running, and I just a few weeks ago, I ran a double marathon, 52.4 miles, which was insane. It was a race that went all night long. So I started at 7 p.m., ran through the night into the next morning. And it was one of those races where you could keep running. Somebody did 100 miles on it, but I hit that 52.4, exactly 2 marathons. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. Come pick me up. They had a golf cart following me. I'm like, okay, I did my goal. But I had lost over 100 pounds. I lost almost 15% body fat. And now I'm running ultra marathons and doing kind of some extreme things. And life is a lot better when you're in shape and in control of your health. So it's been a good year.
That's awesome. That's kind of like David Goggins. I don't know if you've read the book Can't Hurt Me, because
I haven't read that.
You should definitely read it. That's a big reason why the podcast exists today, my podcast, because of that book. So he was actually talking, it's kind of like the same journey where he was very overweight, and he wanted to join the military. So he just put himself into, like, I have to lose weight. So he got into shape, and he is really into marathon. So whenever you talk the overnight marathon, that's the guy that would literally be in an overnight marathon.
Right.
Definitely should read the book. It's really awesome. But tell me how your life personally has changed, though, since you lost the weight, because you have a lot more energy. Tell me, what are the biggest changes you can see from first day of summer 2018 to today?
Well, honestly, there were a lot of things that I was worried about. I thought, exercising a lot is going to take a lot of my time, and eating healthy food is going to cost a lot more money. And it's going to, these things are going to take me away from my kids and my work and things like that. And none of those have come to fruition. I have more time now. I have more energy to do things. My focus is better. So not only in 2018 did I lose 100 pounds, but I wrote and published 2 books. I refinished my basement, landscaped my yard. I'm a sports writer, and I was able to produce a lot of content for my blog and for newspapers. It was just an amazing year for me. And it's because I was in better shape, because I had more energy. I was sleeping better at night. The snoring went away, and some of those things that obese people deal with, a lot of those health things went away. And not everything. I have a rare foot condition where even today, when I go running, every time I'm running, I'm feeling needles shoot up through my feet. And there's nothing I can do about it. And so I don't have perfect health, and there might not be a solution to my medical condition, but I've learned to run in pain. And I've learned that I feel good when I'm done because I'm healthier. And so it's worth it. And so I'm just more productive, more focused now. And I have more quality time with my kids, where now instead of just watching Netflix together, like I mentioned earlier, I'll be riding the bicycle while we're watching Netflix. And we're spending more time, active time as a family. Not that we weren't active before. My kids have always been active. But now I can play with them, and I can wrestle with them, and we can go on hikes together, stuff like that. So it's been great.
So I have to ask, your wife, is she happier now?
Oh, of course. Yes. Well, and it's been amazing too, because as things have improved for me, she was already in great shape, but we're both living a healthier lifestyle. And because I'm more productive with certain things, we have more time together. We go on more dates and spend more time together. We go walking every evening together. We take the dog out into the country, and over the summer, we would do that every morning and every evening. So we have a lot more time together, which has been wonderful. But she started blogging and doing some of the things too that on the side. And she, this last summer, decided that she wanted to try to build her own furniture. And she did, and she made thousands of dollars selling it. Like, it got really popular, and it's been amazing. So it's been really fun to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, like, to my listeners, you guys cannot see this, but like your face right now, it just looks so happy and like such a great energy. Like, I love this. That's awesome.
I have to show you, because I'm sitting in my basement. The kids are upstairs eating right now. But this picture behind me is one of my wife's pieces. So she took the photos, and we're in a room where I can't show you everything, but
Oh, it's
We
like a
built
little
this
nook
room. This
there.
is a basement that we built, and she built this little reading nook that I'm on. We have a lot of fun working together.
That is awesome. So this way, it's kind of like it's like a honeymoon all over, I feel like.
It has felt that way in many ways. In fact, last year we celebrated our 15-year wedding anniversary, and I turned 40. And to celebrate both those things, we went on our first cruise. And while we were on our cruise, everyone told us, you're going to gain a ton of weight, and this is bad that you're trying to lose weight. I lost weight on the cruise, and we had so much fun. We just did the Mexican Riviera, and we were, out paddleboarding and scuba diving and doing the fun, active things on the cruise. And it was totally like a honeymoon. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, 40s is in your 20s, technically, right?
Right.
So you're in your 20s, you just have 4 kids.
Right. That's exactly where we're at.
Now let's focus a little bit on the other 25 kids that we have. We have 9 to 5 through the morning time. So you worked in university, you're a professor. Now you are a teacher in the elementary school. Yep. And you've been in the education system for about 15 years.
That's right.
How has education changed within the last 15 years? I'm not American, so I don't know how it was 15 years ago, but I can relate to 10 years ago. But Can you tell us like major differences?
Sure, I can. And actually, when you think about change, our world has changed so much in the last 15, 20 years that you would expect everything has changed. And sadly, there are a lot of things in the American education system that haven't changed. A lot of the curriculum is the same, taught in the same traditional, boring way. It's still very lecture driven. And there are a lot of things that I wish would change more in the education world. But I can say that the students have changed because of their home environment, right? And so it's harder to keep their attention. It's harder to keep them off their own devices. If you have your devices in the classroom, if you're working on Chromebooks or iPads, they're excited, but the engagement there maybe isn't what we want it to be as educators. And so it's been a real balancing act on how do we work with 21st century learning and use the technology and the supports available to us. And how much do we stick with that old school model of let's just talk, let's go through things, let's memorize dates and facts. And unfortunately, there are a lot of constraints put on teachers. And I didn't realize this. As a professor, I had much more autonomy. I could teach the way I wanted to teach. I could create my own curriculum and teach it in the way I wanted. As an elementary school teacher, there's a lot more constraints because you have to have unified curriculum so that one fifth grade teacher is teaching the same way as the other fifth grade teachers. And it has to be curriculum that's gone through the school board and stuff like that. And so it's more difficult to teach in the way you want to teach and what you want to teach in the elementary and secondary levels. Now, that said, the students that we have are amazing today because we live in this world where you can go and you can create and you can be an inventor. You can be like my daughter last year. She was 10 years old and she published her first book. She wrote this fiction book, Battle School. And we live in a world where a 10-year-old can do that, where you can get on Amazon and you can put it up in the marketplace and you can do these incredible things. And my students are amazing. They're doing stuff like that all the time. I have in my class, I'm big on reading. And we have this group where if you read more than 50 books, and it has to include all this nonfiction leadership, my students are reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and stuff like that.
That's an amazing book to read at that age.
Right, but they're up to it. And I have so many students that will read over 50 books and they get their name on a plaque for the Platinum Club in our classroom. And I'll give them a book set. And I'm going to thrift stores like every week to buy more books to give my students. I've bought over 2,000 books in the last 3 years because the kids want to be fed. They want to learn. They want to grow. And so I don't know if that has changed so much in the last 15 years, but we have amazing kids around today, for sure.
So those 2,000 books that you bought, if you don't mind me asking, were that from your personal budget?
Most of it, yeah. And my wife keeps telling me, you need to scale back on your book buying, and I agree with her. I've done some fundraising for that, and I probably should have done a lot more. And I do have a little bit of an expense account through the school. But yeah, most of them I bought myself.
I mean, that is honestly amazing, though, because it's literally money out of your pocket. And just investing it towards the next generation, where I feel like if some certain situations will change and certain regulations, the teachers need to be paid more and need to be more appreciated, because it's not only just 9 to 5, but that you are growing the next generation. You are helping other people change their thinking. And this is a funny expression. So in Albania, we say, when you're born, you're a piece of wood. And then you go to school, and then you go to college, and then you read and get educated, and then you turn into a great sculpture. So it's kind of like you're helping them. And I know it's a funny translation, but the idea of it. And
yeah, no, I totally get it.
And you're helping them through all this. And I feel like, and especially today's society, and that's why I want to focus a little bit more, because yes, the parents, they are on their own devices, on their phone, on their hand, but that's what's happening in the households too. Like sometimes I would babysit, or when I used to babysit, like the kids would be literally on their phones. They don't know how to have an interaction or communication. Like, do you find that as a professor too, that they want that interaction? Once they have it, then it's bonded for a long time?
Yeah, so when I was a professor, I'm in teacher education. So my students were people who wanted to be teachers. And because of that, they were very motivated in my classrooms. I didn't have to motivate them. They knew what they wanted to be when they grew up, right? And so they wanted to have discussions. They were the kids that raised their hand for every question and stuff. Those annoying kids that are in every class that are always raising their hands. That was all my students as a professor.
That's me. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. And so in that world, the engagement was there. Now, what did I observe generally from the other students at the school and stuff like that? Yeah, it's hard to get them to unplug. They'd rather text you than talk to you. And so it is a challenge that teachers have today. I don't have that. We don't allow devices in my 5th grade classroom. So I don't have to deal with that. The funny thing, though, is this year I've had a real issue with watches, smart watches. And kids have to turn it off, or I take them away. And, we don't have phones in our classroom, but those watches can sure be distracting. And so we have to deal with some of those distractions. But, there's a lot of good that comes with that, too.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the technology advancements, it is being done for a reason, but sometimes there are side effects that I feel like it needs to be more controlled, especially at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say, though, that like the kids, like, because I feel like the more technology advances, and I remember reading an article where it says kids nowadays have more anxiety, and they're like, they feel like they need to fulfill the society even more because expectations are higher. Which is like, who is setting up the expectations? Is us, and it's us allowing other people. We're just stressing ourselves out.
Right.
Do you find, and it's only the 5th grade, but I mean, do you see that being effective in 5th graders?
Oh, for sure. And part of the problem with that is, we had kids 20, 30 years ago with ADHD and anxiety and depression and all sorts of other things. But back then, most of it wasn't diagnosed. And so we didn't call it that. We just said they struggled in school, or they had a hard time focusing, or whatever. And today I think we overdiagnose. We say, well, everybody has this, so we need to make special accommodations for everyone, for every little thing. And it does get to be tricky in the classroom because as opposed to when I was a kid, if you really had something that was preventing you from learning, it would set you apart. And that was a horrible thing because you'd have to be pulled out of your class and go to special education or whatever. Today, those lines are so blurred. Like, kids are getting pulled out of class all the time for all sorts of reasons. We have speech, we have occupational therapy, we have behavioral therapy, we have all sorts of programs to help all students succeed, which is amazing. And it's not very disruptive because it's part of the culture now. That's just how we do classes, is we make accommodations for students. Now, that being said, is there a greater amount of anxiety and depression and lack of focus? I think so. Absolutely. I think that's how we've trended for a long time. And I do think that is harder in the classroom today than it ever has been. And there's food allergies, and there's all sorts of other issues too that have, grown over time. But, I agree with you. Teachers are maybe underappreciated, underpaid, but they have been good at adapting to those things. And I think teachers really are heroes. They're stepping up. They're taking care of the kids. And there are a few bad apples out there, with teachers. I think a lot of people view teachers as overpaid and overappreciated because there are bad teachers out there. And when you have a teacher who doesn't love your child, and I've experienced this with my own kids. Fortunately, most of my own kids have had amazing teachers, but I remember one teacher that my son had, and I knew she didn't love him, and it affected him, and he did not learn as much that year, and he didn't grow. And the issues that he has personally, he struggled with that year. And then the next year he had a teacher that loved him, and he blossomed, and he took off, and he's above grade level and everything. And a teacher can make a difference for sure. And that's why I'm in this field. I love being able to work with kids and making a difference.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to a little bit where you mentioned about the blurred lines, because I feel like that's true though. Sometimes you diagnose and sometimes you overdiagnose. And being currently I'm in my late 20s, and I do have friends or family that on their 20s or on their 30s, they have kids. But because of they're on their phone all the time, they're on social media, I feel like they're not paying as much attention to their kids. So instead of actually focusing and giving them encouragement, I feel like they're just like, oh, you have ADHD, or oh, you have this. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I totally have seen that. And I think that we overdiagnose because we want to help. I think we live in a cool world where, people want to be accommodating. They want to make every opportunity available to people. But I also think we live in a world where we have helicopter parents and parents that are too busy to spend time with their kids. And it's easier to say, give them medicine or give them a therapist. And rather than spending that quality time with kids, we're diagnosing it so we can make it someone else's problem. And I've totally seen that with parents of my own students and just in the community at large. Like it's a societal thing. And you can't blame any one group or any one person, but I think absolutely that's happening.
And that's kind of sad though, because the kid can have so much potential, but even any medication, it might give you a side effect. It might just make you feel like, oh, I need this, when you actually don't need it, and you can do so much better than anybody ever told you. You might just need you just needed just a little faith and a little push.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so you love books and you love writing. You even got your daughter your daughter at 10 years old, she wrote a book. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is, and she's a remarkable girl. It's amazing that she did that.
So tell me a little bit about your passion, where you do reviews online and you get stuff, and you even wrote a book about this, get stuff online book. So tell me a little bit about how does the process works?
Yeah. So when we moved across the country 3 years ago. And at first the job that I thought I was going to get at the university, it didn't work out. And so right at the beginning, I was unemployed, and, we were trying to get into a house, and things just weren't working out the way we planned. I had already been in my dream job, and things were going so well, and I was kind of used to that. And so when things didn't go well, it really kind of threw me off for a bit. And so we'd been kind of in this weird state for a few months, and Christmas was coming up, and I didn't have really cool things to give to my kids. And I, as a man, I want to provide, and I want to make sure that they have all the things, that they don't feel different from their friends and don't feel poor and stuff like that. And I didn't want to, take out debt or anything like that for Christmas. But my little brother, he had been doing reviews of different products, and he would always tell me about it. He's like, you need to do this. It's so great. And he, over that Christmas period, he had been reviewing those hoverboards that they're like scooters, and you stand on and, you move forward with it or whatever. And he had reviewed those online, and they gave it to him for free. So he got to keep this hoverboard, and then they gave him an affiliate code. So everyone that they sold through his link, he got like $50. And he made like a few $1,000s over Christmas and got all these cool toys. And so that was kind of the thing that's got me thinking, okay, I need to do something to take care of my kids. And even though I've never wanted to do this in the past, I might as well at least give it a try. So I went online and I found a company that pairs up influencers with brands. And I had no brand. So I just invented one. I called it Reviews of Cool Stuff. And I threw up a website, and I created all of my social media accounts, and I had 0 followers. But then I just went crazy, and I followed everyone in the universe and hoped they would follow me back. And within 2 months, I had like 15,000 Twitter followers and like 5,000 or 6,000 Instagram followers. and they started sending me stuff. And so I'd get these things through the mail, and honestly, it felt like Christmas every day. So at the beginning, I did get a few things before Christmas. So I had like some ski goggles for my son and a belt, nothing too fancy. But within a few months, I was getting packages in the mail every day. And so the kids would get home, we'd open up all our boxes, and I knew what was in them, but they didn't. And so it'd be like a remote control car or a skateboard or a ukulele or, all these really cool things. And so I would review them. And at first I didn't get paid, but as my following grew, I started getting paid to post on Instagram or to make a YouTube video and stuff like that. And that first year I did it, I reviewed over 350 products. So, I mean, a lot more, about one a day.
So yeah, that's about one a day.
And when I added it up at the end of the year, I got paid about $1,000 to do the reviews. And then the merchandise's value was worth somewhere between 5 and 10 grand. And so, we got all this cool stuff. It increased our quality of living, because anything we needed for the house, I'd just review it and then we'd have it. And then we had so much stuff, I didn't know what to do with. So we started giving it away for birthday presents, wedding presents. We invented holidays so we could just give people presents. And as a school teacher, then I started having auctions in my classroom, and I'd bring in the skateboards and the backpacks and the earphones and things like that. And my students would save up their, I call it honey money for our classroom. So it's Mr. C's bees, and they have their honey money. And if they had good behavior, they'd get paid and they'd have jobs and stuff. And they started, being able to win these things at auction. They'd have to outbid their classmates, and we'd talk about how to manage your money and invest and things like that. And so that's how I use most of my product reviews now. I don't do as much reviewing. It never took a ton of time. It would just be a few hours every weekend. But now for me, it's like a few hours every month. I just don't do it as much because I have so much stuff. I just need to get rid of it, not get more stuff. So, but it was a cool experience. So I did write a book about it, just because I'd been keeping track of what I was learning anyways. And it's called How to Get Free Stuff with Online Product Reviews. And it's just a little book. It's on Amazon. If you want to put the link in the show notes, you can. But I mostly just wrote it because people kept asking me, how do you get all this stuff? And so I haven't marketed the book or tried to make money off it. I just wrote it because I got sick of telling people how I did it. So it was easier to write it down. So that's how that book came to be. It's nothing special, but the book is good. And I had other influencers contribute and talk about their experience. So I reached out to other influencers in different spaces. And so there's some real value in the book. If you want to get started, it's a lot easier than I thought it'd be. And it's been a lot more beneficial than I thought it'd be. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So you pulled up Christmas gifts, and then you furnished the house. I got little stuff, and then you invented a holiday to give stuff away. And now you're using for the little minions. That's cool. Yeah, I call kids little minions because that's what they're just adorable.
That's what they are. Yep.
That's awesome though. So I feel like from getting to talk to you, I feel like you just have an idea, you take action, and you just go for it. And then you get you don't stop. You just go for it. It's like, whatever, I'm going to achieve it. I'm just going to do it. Is it something you always done your whole life?
Yeah, well, and there's good and bad to that. So there's a little bit of the shiny object or squirrel syndrome where anytime I have an idea, I want to do it. So I'm doing too many things and maybe the focus isn't always there. Right this year, it's been public speaking. I really dove into public speaking, and I'm doing a high school assembly this week, and I've had other opportunities, and that's been really fun. But some of these other projects on the side have had to take the back burner. And if I just picked one or two of them, I'd probably be way more successful and, have bestsellers or whatever, have this huge YouTube following. And I don't, mostly it's for my own gratification. It keeps me busy. These are productive hobbies that help my family have a better life. But I'm not getting rich off any of this stuff. It's just making my life better, which I'm fine with. So there's good and bad with taking action. Obviously you want to take action and you want to be proactive, but you can also be probably a little more strategic about it than I have been.
But I like how you say that, I'm not doing this just for a following. I'm doing this just for myself. It makes me happy and my family happy. Yeah. I think that's very important because a lot of people, I feel like, do stuff to impress other people. And they don't really look at what do I like? What do I want to do?
Yeah, well, and I'm fortunate. I don't need to do that. And if you knew my wife and my kids, you'd know why. Like, I have everything that I could ever need. So, as long as they're happy, I'm happy. And we have a really good life together.
That's awesome. I love this interview. I just have to say, like, I want to actually follow up with you like a year from now and see what else have you done. Because I'm sure you're going to be really great at speaking, like, just like sharing your story. I feel like I should just jump in and just do whatever, like, it's in my head, just take some action.
You should.
Because I'm the person that I'll have an idea, but I'll bounce between multiple ideas and I'll lose focus.
Right.
Instead of just focusing on one. So maybe I should explore all of them the same intensity and see which one works better.
Yeah, well, and I wish I could give better advice in that area because, you do what works for you. So, but you're taking action. You have this awesome podcast and you're doing some great things. So just keep it up.
Thank you. I try. Well, before we do jump to the final question, which we all know what the final question is, if any of my awesome subscribers and my awesome audience out there wants to get a hold of you and reach out, where can they find you?
I have so many different social profiles and different things for all the different things I've done. It's probably easiest just to go to tylerchristensen.com. So it's Tyler Christensen is Christensen. And that's where you'll find me. If you Google me, there's lots of Tyler Christensens in the world, so you probably won't find me. But if you go to tylerchristensen.com, I link to all my stuff there.
Awesome. And I know the book is the goal is for 2019. Do we have a release date yet?
Thanksgiving. Yeah. So just next month. I'm grateful for the journey that I've been able to go on. So we're releasing it on Thanksgiving to say thanks.
Absolutely. I actually want to read that because I'm going to start this. Here you go, guys. I'm going to spill the beans. I'm going to start this new kind of episode that I'm just going to do reviews on books that I read and books that I've enjoyed. So I would like to read that too. And absolutely,
cool.
Why
I'll
not?
send you one over. No problem.
Sounds like a deal. And then my very last question, as we all know, what is your definition of success?
I like this question. When I first started listening to your podcast, I actually hated the question because I didn't know what my answer was. And so as other people answered, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense. But as I listened to a bunch of episodes, I think I've come to, for me, success means going to bed at night, looking forward to the next day. If I'm going to bed at night and I'm anxious about things or I feel unsettled or if I'm feeling guilty, then I'm not having success. But if I can go to sleep looking forward to waking up 4:30 the next morning, then I'm having success in my life.
I like that. And everybody has different answers towards this question. And that's why I'm always intrigued what people would say.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that with me. And for all of you listeners out there, if you do want to listen to awesome episodes just like this one, make sure to tune in every Tuesday. Like I said multiple times, we do have different platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Stitchers, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Podbean, as well as www.rmpodcastfl.com. I hope you guys have a great and amazing day. Thank you for tuning in.